Thank you. Before I open the hearing for the Barnstable Conservation Commission, I would like to ask George to do a roll call for the quorum purpose.
Abadili?
Present.
Foster?
Present.
Gilmore, present. Fern?
Present.
Lee?
Present.
Sampu?
Present.
Tangney?
Present.
Administrator Darcy Carley?
Present.
Staff member Kim Cavanaugh?
Present.
We have a full quorum here and we're ready to go.
Thank you. Acting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and or Chapter 237 of the Code of Town of Barnstable, the Barnstable Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, November the 14th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. for the applications of Kingfish LLC, Cheryl Gardner, Laura M. McGonnell. The hearing is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable Government's Access Channel. The plans and application are on file and may be reviewed by scheduling appointments by sending email requests to Darcy Curley at 230 South Street, Hyannis. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. In accordance with the Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, please let the chair know if anyone else is recording this meeting. Hearing none, this evening's hearing agenda is posted on the town's website. On the agenda, next to each application is the amount owed to the Town of Barnstable for the cost of advertisement. Please send your checks to the Conservation Division at 230 South Street before the hearing. Remote participations. The Conservation Commission's public hearing will be held by remote participation as a result of an act extending certain COVID-19 measure adopted during the state of emergency, cited by the governor on March 29, 2023, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Remote public access to this hearing shall be provided in the following manner. 1. The hearing will be televised via the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. 2. The real-time public comments can be addressed to the Conservation Commissions utilizing the Zoom link 865-6939-6379 or use the toll-free phone number 888-475-4499 as shown on the agenda. Third, the public can also email a comment to darcy.curley@town.barnstable.ma.us at least 8 hours prior to the hearing. Tonight, under the old new business, let me read the A and B in, and then I can give you the background why we are looking for this procedural votes for discussions. Number one is the discussions and vote whether upon receipt of the government commission staff of a superseded order of conditions or a superseded determinations of applicability by the Department of Environmental Protections overturning the commission's decision. The chair and or the commission or the administrator in consultation with the legal are authorized to make a decision on behalf of the commission whether to appeal such vote to be ratified by the commissions at the next regular scheduled meeting. B, the discussions and voted whether upon receipt by the commissioner staff of a superseded order of conditions or a superseding determinations of applicability by the Department of Environmental Protections overturning the commission's decision in the absence of both chair and the administrator. Legal is authorized to make a decision on behalf of the commissions whether to appeal such votes to be ratified by the commission at the next regular scheduled meeting. Under normal conditions or normal procedures wise, let me explain and then Kate can chime in and see what I explained right. Under normal procedures, we would go into the executive session during our scheduled hearings to discuss any appeal from any decision from the DEP that we want to vote to appeal for that. But there are two scenarios that we cannot make that timing wise because we cannot predict when the DEP will issue those appeal and those decisions, and then the timeline to reply those decisions, they were very tight. So there's two scenarios. One, in between that, before we can ask them for the determinations, that we need to make a reply. So either I can consult it with Darcy and then consulting with legal, Kate in this case, that to make that determination, then follow it in the next available hearing date. Then we'll have an executive session to work to ratify for that vote. And then secondly, if myself is not available and Darcy is not available, then we are talking about whether the legal, in this case is Kate, to make that determination. Again, we'll come back with the regular scheduled hearing to have an executive session to ratify the vote. Did I explain it correctly, Kate?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to the commission. Kate Connolly, Assistant Town Attorney. I had suggested that we put this as sort of a housekeeping item, this general procedural item on the agenda for the reason that DEP has a really short time frame for appeals. And this is only a backup if the commission is not able to schedule a meeting and put the question on the agenda of whether you want to appeal a DEP decision. And as your chair properly explained, most of the time you're going to get notice from DEP, and I won't get it, so I can't monitor this. This is something the commission needs to monitor. In other words, whenever matters before DEP, it means it's been before you already. You as the commission have made a decision either to grant or deny either an order of conditions or a request for determination of applicability. Whatever your decision is, the applicant might appeal it, or you may grant something and the neighbor might appeal. It goes to DEP. DEP has deadlines, but they don't always follow them, and they're kind of long deadlines sometimes, and you can, like, 70 days for them to issue a decision on certain applications. So sometimes you can lose track of it. All of a sudden, you're going to get, or your admin is going to get, Kim is going to get an email saying, excuse me one second. Sorry, there's nobody home except the animals, and I can't control them right now. So the dog and cats are fighting. I apologize for that. Athena, sit down. So you'll get notice that there's been a decision by DEP, and you then have only 10 days to decide whether you want to appeal or not. So in order not to miss those deadlines, I've recommended this usually it's to commissions that only meet once a month. There are some smaller commissions out in Western Mass, don't really have a lot of wetlands anyway, and they're short-staffed, and they're like 3-member commissions. So I've always recommended to them that they do something like this, again, only for the situation where they may not have a meeting coming up and they don't want to miss a deadline. And what it means is the vote would mean that if you don't have a meeting coming up and you can't get this on an agenda, you leave the decision to the chair and the manager in consultation with legal, whether to appeal or not. If there's any doubt whether the whole commission might want to appeal, I'm going to recommend just file the appeal, and then we can always withdraw it later. Same thing with, if for some reason the scheduling is such that neither your chair nor your manager are there and I'm stuck with the decision, I'm always going to appeal it because I'm not going to want to make that decision for the commission. And then the commission will later vote to ratify the decision. And that just means either approve the vote or say, no, that's not what we wanted to do. So if we've filed an appeal, when the commission votes to ratify it, you can say, no, we don't want to pursue this appeal, and then we withdraw the appeal. So that's the reason for it. It's just because DEP deadlines, over the years, they've gotten better. They've recognized the open meeting law that municipalities have to follow. You have to post notice within minimum 48 hours to get things on an agenda. So there's been more flexibility, but I'm still finding that a lot of commissions come up against this situation where they get notice of a decision by DEP and they don't have time to get it on an agenda for the whole commission to vote. So it's a convenience thing so that you get an opportunity to vote and you don't just all of a sudden miss a deadline and there you go, you missed an appeal.
Those are the two scenarios that could happen. So that's why Kate is asking for a procedural vote so that we have something to fall back on in case that happens. So
right. And the reason this is not, because I know somebody had raised this issue earlier this week, why it's not in executive session, because we're not making a decision on any particular litigation right now. This is just a procedural matter going forward. And again, I caution you, it's not for every situation. It's only for situations where you're informed as a commission that DEP has issued a decision. You have 10 days to decide whether to appeal or not. You might not have a meeting scheduled. You might not want to schedule an emergency meeting, and it might not constitute an emergency. So it's only for those situations where you're going to miss a deadline. if you don't authorize the chair and the manager to make the decision in consultation with legal. And again, you still get the opportunity whenever you next meet to ratify the vote, which can include overturning that vote.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm saying, because DEP is not going to wait for us to make a decision, if we're in doubt at all, my recommendation is going to be file the appeal as a placeholder, and then later you can always withdraw it.
Thank you, Kate. Any questions from the commissioner on this? Pete?
Yeah, this strikes me as a no-brainer as long as we can always, withdraw the appeal. But there must be a promise or a guarantee that we appeal as a placeholder if we cannot meet. Now, I'm not a lawyer, and I hope Abbo is going to be able to provide even a better understanding of this. But it seems we need the placeholder as long as it's a promise that it will always be appealed until, and then we can essentially take back that appeal when we all vote. Thanks.
Right. John?
Thank you. Kate, I sort of agree with Pete. I think these are pretty easy from a substantive point of view. Just a couple of questions. Sort of going back to what Pete said, when I read this such vote to be ratified, I read that, and perhaps incorrectly, as meaning that we affirm the decision rather than review and have the option to affirm or change it. So I was just wondering, from a drafting point of view, am I reading the word ratified incorrectly? Secondly, in paragraph B, it says, in the absence of both the chair and the administrator, what determines absence? I mean, if you make one phone call, is that absent? Or I just, again, from a detailed drafting point of view, how would you define absence? 2 phone calls, 3 phone calls, or actually suddenly, I was a little confused about the drafting of it. Substantively, I absolutely would support this.
Sure. And addressing your questions in order, I agree with you. The word ratify just sounds like agreeing later, but it also means the commission could vote to overturn the decision.
Right.
Ratify, yeah. The word ratify legally does encompass both. And again, I would recommend that we be most cautious. And if there's any doubt in the mind of the chair, the manager, and myself, then we'll just appeal. I don't like to just frivolously file appeals and then withdraw them, because I know you wouldn't do that in Superior Court, although we have a lot more time for Superior Court. That's why it's not an issue there. I don't want to start filing things with DEP and withdrawing them and having them say, what is going on with Barnstable? So again, this is only a situation, and to turn to your second question, I think it's pretty rare, and I think I was just trying to cover all my bases, that the 3 of us would all not be around at the same time. I think I would be able to reach them both by phone, and I don't see that happening even if they were both on vacation. There really hasn't been a situation where we haven't been able to coordinate when one of the 3 of us hasn't been around. But it's just to sort of,
it's not a whether a 1 or 2 phone call thing. It could be like, Darcy out in vacations out in Arizona or something. And then at the same time, I may take a vacation out of the country or something that I cannot be reached.
Yeah, I wasn't questioning the substance at all in any way. I don't mean to do that. It's just, as I read this, the word ratify meant like we sort of affirm it, routinely. And that's not what you mean, that we have an opportunity to either affirm or reject the decision. So if you define ratified that way, I'm spiffy with it. And then when it said absence, again, just from a drafting point of view, maybe absolutely nothing, Kate. I don't mean to make an issue over it, but I said, what is an absence? It's pretty rare that would occur, as you say. I agree with the substance of what you're trying to do. Absolutely. I was just wondering if the drafting was a concern, and you know more about it than I do. So whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, by absence, and I wouldn't make 2 different phone calls. I would have them both on the phone at the same time. I mean, I would probably not initiate it, but I would want the 3 of us to be on the phone. But again, keep in mind, this is a worst case scenario. We don't want to have to do this. I want the commission to be able to vote, but I want to be covered. I want you guys to be covered in the event that you get a decision when you just had a meeting last night and now you only have 10 days, you're not going to have a meeting. So I just want to have that opportunity for you to be able to have a placeholder if that becomes necessary. And then you guys, vote.
As I say, substantively, no question, absolutely 100% agree with that. It's just a good thing to do. I'm just wondering if, if I were to probably say such vote to be affirmed or overruled by the commission or something like that, instead of the word ratified. But if you're comfortable with it, go for it,
I'm comfortable with ratified, but I'm okay with you changing the words to affirmed or overturned if that makes you more comfortable as commissioners. Again, this is a worst case thing. I just want it to be voted so that if we run up into a situation where there's no commission meeting coming up, you don't miss an opportunity. But yeah, if you
okay, I was kind of going back to Pete's, the substantive issue that Pete raised, and I was trying to address that because I had the same issue when I read it. But so if that's more comfortable to change those words, great, whatever.
Yeah, if somebody wants to make a motion instead of ratify, say affirm or overturn.
I make a move.
George raised the hand.
It was my same question. And I was just going to change ratify to affirmed or overturned.
Yeah.
And that's all right.
Yeah, and that's fine. I think the reason I use the word ratify is because there's a provision in the regulations at 310 CMR 10 with respect to enforcement. And that is the commission takes a vote to authorize its agent to take enforcement action, but the commission later has to vote to ratify the enforcement action. So it was an existing term, so I used it, but I'm fine. I don't care which way it goes.
Thank you. George, you want to try the motions?
I will just in a second.
Yep.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion I move that we, upon receipt of the commission staff of the superseding order of conditions or a superseding determination of applicability by the Department of Environmental Protection overturning the commission's decision, the chair and or administrator in consultation with legal are authorized to make a decision on behalf of the commission whether to appeal such vote to be affirmed or overturned by the commission at the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
Tangney.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Do you want to go to the second one?
I will make a motion, Mr. Chairman. I move that upon the receipt by the commission staff of a superseding order of conditions or a superseding determination of applicability by the Department of Environmental Protection overturning the commission's decision in the absence of both the chair and the administrator, legal is authorized to make a decision on behalf of the commission whether to appeal such vote to be affirmed or overturned by the commission at the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
Tangney.
Aye.
That's unanimous, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate.
Okay, thank you. Have a good rest of the meeting and a good evening, everyone.
Yes.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you. We have two RDA this evening. The first one is Kingfish LLC to renovate swimming pool to add a hot tub and steps, add safety automatic cover, replace wood pool decking and concrete slabs with stone, enclose pool equipment and add dry well for pool drainage at 81 Sand Point, Osterville, as shown in the Assessors Map 073, Parcel 015-001. Paul?
Yes,
Yes.
good evening.
You want to go ahead and explain your projects?
This is a footprint of an existing pool and pool patio. And new owner this year found the pool not to be functioning, brought in a pool company which determined that the piping to the pool was malfunctioning, broken, not working. So the essence of the project was to make the pool work. There was a wooden deck built on top of a concrete slab, which is what's shown. This was a plan submission from a previous owner to build it this way. So the scope of work is a pool company to make renovations to the pool, including building in a hot tub and adding a automatic cover. There was not a safety cover, and to convert it to a saltwater pool as opposed to chlorine pool. And representing the landscape contractor, which I am, we were to put in drainage around the pool, dig out for the pool company's piping, and then to put marble down in lieu of the wood deck that was there. Everything is within the existing footprint. The patio is submerged. It's a step down from surrounding areas. It has stone walls around it, so it's protected. And we're not expanding anything. We're just working within the footprint of existing.
Thank you, Paul. Any question from the commissioner? None? Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
Could I have a motion to approve this applications as a negative determination? Oh, who's it? Pete?
Angela had her hand up.
Oh, sorry.
No, I didn't. It was my unmuting.
Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Sampo,
Aye.
Tangy,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Fillmore, aye. Foster,
Aye.
Abadili.
Aye.
That is unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck, Paul.
Thank you.
The second RDA, Cheryl Gardner, to replace existing retaining wall and stair to water that are cracked and damaged at 175 Holly Point Road, Sanderville, as shown on the Assessors Maps 232, parcel 017. Cheryl,
Good morning. Good evening, rather.
good evening. I wish it's good morning. Darcy's going to bring the plan up.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead for the explanations.
Okay. I believe you all have photos as well of the cracked wall and the
Yes.
steps. There they are right there. We'd like to just take down and replace the wall and the steps to the water. Bit by bit, 4 steps at a time. The footprint will remain the same. The lake will be protected. And you also have a project list there, what they were going to do.
Thank you. Any questions for Cheryl? Anyone? No one. Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So moved.
Roll call.
Second.
Oh, roll call.
Hearn,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Abadili,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Tangy,
Aye.
Sampo,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck, Cheryl.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
We have one NOI, Laura L. McDonald, to replace portion of an existing walk deck, patio, and driveways. Expansion of an existing driveway and deck, proposed new patio, a terrace steep wall, walk, stone steps, and a fire pit, invasive species removal and native species planting at 56 Lakewood Drive, Sandville, as shown on Assessors Map 212 parcel 005. Lori?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Matt. Good evening. My name is Lori McDonald. I'm a senior wetland scientist with Cape and Islands Engineering and am representing the applicant Laura L. McGonigal for the proposed site improvements at 56 Lakewood Drive in Centerville. With me tonight is Mr. Sean Papich, the landscape architect for the project. And later on in the presentation, I'll be turning over the mic to him for his further discussion of the landscape aspect of the project. Can I share my screen? Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay, can you see my screen? There we are.
We see your screen.
Okay, let's see. All right, so the property at 56 Lakewood is a previously developed private property that is gently sloping and sparsely vegetated with Lake Weep Pocket, a great pond located at the back of a single-family residential home. The single-family home was built in the 1950s. There's currently the home, fireplace, a shed, wood decks, a porch, stairs, patios, walks, paved driveways, an AC unit, manicured lawns and plantings. And the property is currently serviced by electric, gas, an on-site well, and septic system. Resource areas within 100 feet of the property are inland bank, which is shown here by this blue line, which I'm highlighting in red right now. That's the limits of inland bank. And then there is also the 50-foot buffer, which runs along this line here. This is the Barnstable Zone A, no disturbance zone, and also the 100-foot buffer, which is the Barnstable Zone B outer buffer, 50 to 100 feet from the most outer resource area, which is limits of inland bank, which is this line right here. Can't get it to work. For some reason, I think I have a conflict with your with the computer here. All right. So the applicant is proposing various changes and additions to the landscape features on the property. Specifically, the applicant is looking to expand their existing driveway by adding stone parking area in front of the house, which is right here. This is all proposed stone parking. And they're also proposing to remove the existing asphalt drive on site, which is this section right here. I can't get my computer to work. This section right here is edge of existing pavement. I don't know if you can see my cursor scrolling over the words edge of pavement, but this is all existing paved driveway that'll be removed, this section.
Okay.
Also, the proposed project involves removing existing flagstone walk over here to the west of the home and replacing it with bluestone pavers, removing the existing deck and brick patio in front of the house, which is this brick shaded area in front of the home. That will be removed and replaced with landscape plantings. removing the existing deck and brick patio, like I said, constructing a paved walkway, which is right in through here, this gray portion that will be extended through the removed paved area. Construction of a new bluestone patio with fire pit and terrace seat wall, which is this bricked area here. Expansion of existing decks and steps, which is down in the back here. Installing new granite stepping stones extending from this deck expansion down to the pond. Installing new granite stepping stones, okay. Replacing an existing stone wall, block wall with a precast modular block retaining wall, which is in the back. And removing invasive honeysuckle in a couple of areas right here in this vegetated area. There's some invasive honeysuckle shrubs that will be removed and replaced with native plants. There's also a section of honeysuckle here at the proposed paved walkway that will be removed and replaced with native species. Also, the proponents proposing installing a variety of native plants on site and seeding areas with Cape Cod fescue grass seed mixes. There's no disturbance to wetland resource areas as a part of this project. Minor work will occur within previously developed and disturbed 50 and 100-foot buffers to inland bank and land underwater. All disturbance will be kept to the minimum necessary to complete the work. However, after work is complete, there will be a reduction of developed surfaces on site. So actually, there'll be 375 foot net reduction. And if you factor in the amount of impervious surface, which we did not include in that 375 square foot number, there's even more of a reduction of impervious area on site than that 375. The project has been designed to incorporate construction methodologies and best management practices to avoid and minimize impacts to buffer zone and also avoid impacts to resource areas themselves. Sediment controls will be installed at the limits of work prior to the start of construction. The sediment controls will consist of a sediment stop or compost roll with silt fencing. Sediment controls will be maintained during construction, and no fill will be placed in front of the sediment controls at any time. After work is complete, the construction materials and equipment will be removed from the site, and the site will be stabilized and restored to pre-construction conditions. Sedimentation controls will be removed and disposed of off-site after stabilization has been achieved. No debris, equipment, or materials are going to be allowed outside designated work limits, except for some equipment and materials used to install the mitigation plantings. We have retained all trees. No trees will be removed as a part of the project. As mitigation for the project, we are proposing a variety of measures. First, the main mitigation effort is to actually remove that paved driveway located east of the home. That's going to, again, provide a lot of pervious area within the buffer zone, specifically the no disturbance zone in comparison to existing conditions. The new driveway expansion will be stone, so it will be pervious. There is an existing deck and brick patio, like mentioned before, that's going to be removed from in front of the home and replaced with landscaping. Invasive species removal is more mitigation provided as a part of the project. And there is a significant number of native shrubs and herbaceous vegetation proposed on site that will add wildlife habitat value to the property over and above what's existing. Again, the work after complete will result in a reduction in development within the buffer zone, specifically Barnstable Zone A no disturbance zone, and also the Barnstable Zone B outer buffer. At this point, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Mr. Sean Papich, the landscape architect, for further discussion of the landscape aspects of the project. Mr. Papich will be presenting a slightly updated landscape plan from what was originally filed with the commission, and he will explain the updates in greater detail. So I don't know if you can turn his mic on.
I think you can probably hear me right now, so I think you got me.
Yeah,
you can hear me.
yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you, Tom. Sean Papich, Landscape Architecture, 222 North Street in Hingham, Massachusetts. That is the landscape plan, but Lori, would you be able to click on that other one to the right that shows a real basic breakdown? I think this is kind of helpful. It's kind of difficult to tell on the other overall plan with the engineers. What you see on the left, you can kind of see the maybe it's kind of a pink shading of the existing asphalt driveway, the hardscape, which is the walkway going to that side door that's on the top of the page. There's also brick paving all the way around the front of the house and a deck area. And then once you get into the 50, that's on the outside of the 50 and the 100. On the inside, you can see all of that area right there. Thank you, Lauren. That is all asphalt that we are proposing to remove and cut everything way back. And then you've got set of steps of timbers and pavers going right down to the water right now. So what you see on our plan on the right, from a diagram standpoint, in terms of impervious surfaces, what we've done is cut the asphalt back substantially, done the stone parking area that was already discussed, done stepping stones with space between them going to that side door, removed all of that brick paving around the house and the little deck area, and turned it into native plantings. And then we used a little bit of that asphalt space for a pathway that goes to the deck. Also updating it in that keeping it a little bit higher because of older parents, older folks coming in, keeping it a more level walkway. So it's not so steep. So it's essentially a handicap walkway, but it comes in flush with the deck expansion, which is a really kind of mild deck expansion, fairly small. And it's permeable in that case, in that it's a deck with crushed stone underneath. And then the steps going down to stepping stones, also with space between them. That terrace you see there is, the fire pit is considered to be permeable. So really, as Lori had mentioned, it's 375 square feet less for the overall site coverage, but it's about 880 to 900 square feet less of impervious material. So that's pretty significant. When we thought was a real home run, we're very excited about it, especially in a space like this. And Lori, if you could go to the landscape plan, I can briefly talk about the right above it, the next tab. Perfect. And if you want to zoom in a little closer, the only differences you might see from the previous plan is that little walkway that goes to the deck. We were going to put some native boulders in there to retain that little space by about a foot. So that would be a little bit different. There's some verbiage on the type of concrete block wall. What they've got on the block wall on the upper part of the page, the existing concrete, just a regular concrete block, CMU block. We're just going to use one of the concrete block retaining wall systems, like a Versalock or Teco block, just to replace that. It's just falling down. There's the problem. Lori she really covered a lot of the stuff that I would have been talking about. We are replacing all the honeysuckle in that corner with some winterberry. A couple of the other areas we're using low bush blueberry, Virginia sweetspire, hairwood viburnum, sweetfern, inkberry. So we're using all of our favorites, clethra, switchgrass. We're kind of hitting them all. I'm not even giving you much of a chance, Lori. I apologize. So we're trying to load up heavy on those plants to the edges, at the base of those trees, as well as out toward the edge of the water, putting some viburnum and some switchgrass in there to try to soften those areas, just because we're cut down on lawn in those areas, and we think it makes sense to do that. So that's primarily where I guess I can probably leave it at that point.
Sean, what is the date on this drawing?
That date is October 26th, which the only difference is we added more detail to the details of the fire pit, the landscape materials on terms of the stonework and how it's laid, as well as some very slight adjustments to the plant list. The planting beds are basically the same as what we have, so the same coverage as what you would have seen before. This is more of a materials legend. We describe in more detail that and the construction method and the materials themselves. So I feel like it's not really a lot different than what you've already seen. It's a little more detail as it got developed and sent it out to potential.
Yeah, but it's a lot more detail than the one that we have. Darcy, do you have a copy of this plan?
No, we have not submitted it to Darcy yet.
Okay. You should submit a copy to Darcy so that she has a copy in the file. If this
Absolutely.
Lori, before I go to asking Commissioner for any question stuff, have you received the DEP number for this yet?
I have not checked. I can go online and check if you'd like.
The reason I ask is based on our record, we don't have the DEP number. I just want to make sure that is correct.
Yeah, we didn't see it in the office at, just before the hearing, so.
So the commission would have to continue the hearing pending the issuance of.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, what, 6140, right? Oh, no.
No, this is the other one. 6140 is the other one.
Okay.
You mean 6141, Brian Conley.
No, we do have
Yeah, the agenda.
6140 is the SE3 number for this. We do have that.
Okay, that's what I was just reading. I printed the agenda off just before we started, and I'm like, oh, Kim does have it on there.
Yep.
Okay, what's the number? 60?
6140.
Okay, got it. Just paperwork.
Yep.
Question from the commissioner. Any questions?
Yes.
John.
Hello. Thank you, Tom. When you define this new deck, you call it permeable hardscape with a fire pit in the center of it. What exactly is that? And was that not included, or was it included in your mitigation calculations?
Lloyd, do you want to take that, or do you want me to?
Can you handle that?
Yeah. So the permeable terrace that we showed where the fire pit is would be terrace on crushed stone with a 1/4-inch chip stone. So it's laid dry with 1/4-inch chip stone as it's setting bed versus compacted stone dust and compacted crusher run. So we're really going to that method with almost everything these days. So it was considered in the square footage where it was still a reduction of coverage. And even if it was considered to be on concrete, it was still a reduction of overall impervious surfaces. So there's still a reduction overall and in the 50.
Thank you. When I walked it this afternoon, walked the property, instead of trying to look at it, it's pretty noticeable that there's a total absence of vegetation. I think total absence of vegetation between the water and the house.
Yeah.
Certainly, where this deck is going to go and a fire pit's going to go, you're going to get a rather significant increase in use by the homeowners or the guests there. So I'm sitting here saying, boy, I sure think that we ought to be looking at some vegetation along the water front there. So that's where I was kind of concerned as I looked at this thing. And again, if you can arguably say, yeah, and you're right. I think that there's a decrease in hardscape within the 0 to 50, but when I look at the potential use of the land within the 0 to 50, I'm saying, should we not be getting some mitigation along the waterfront area instead of overweighing both sides and on the front side? So that's where my concern was.
It's kind of all a little beach area right there. I think it's mostly sand.
So we are providing the Panicum Vergatum area.
Where is that?
So we've got on a square.
Show the planting plan.
Yeah, if you want to pull that up. I know that they're on the edges, John, but we felt like it still is important space there as you look. Yeah, thank you, Lori. In there, we have the viburnum and we have the switchgrass.
Yeah, and again, from an environmental point of view, it would sure help me a lot if some of that was spread more along the waterfront instead of clumped up towards the back of the property away from the water. Some of that was spread out on both sides in front of the water, especially where the deck is going to go, where this new deck is going to go, where there is going to be a significant increase in use of that 0 to 50 land.
Now, it's going to be a significantly better use than the asphalt driveway that was pulling up really close to it. Is where we, from a site planning standpoint, it feels like a huge home run, and that we've taken away a tremendous amount of asphalt going right up to that side of the house and right up to that shed.
As somebody who drove down to the end of that driveway and had to back out of it, it's a good move.
Yeah, absolutely problematic, no question. But I feel like we were able to soften up the hardscape there. Maybe a drift of some sort of excuse me, throat here. A little bit of switchgrass or something, but it's also their only access point to their beach area there is right in that area. So
yeah, I certainly would not in any way want to impede their access in that area, but the whole beachfront, the whole width of that house has nothing in front, no vegetation in front of it. No shrubs, no nothing. So that's where I was coming from, Sean, in terms of the environmental impact. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Pete?
Yes, so thank you. And Sean, having that side-by-side comparison of existing to what's being proposed was helpful, because as our commission, we generally are a little hesitant about fire pits and high use areas within our 50, which of course the fire pit and the surrounding patio will be. Yes, it is a reduction in overall hardscape. And I think that also applies not only just on the whole property, but in the 50. That's true, right? There's an overall reduction of hardscape in the 50, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. However, this is a tight property. I would also agree with Commissioner Abadili, having something to soften the public view of the house. And I think it could be artfully done for the homeowners themselves. Doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be view blocking, but some kind of softened vegetation be good. If it's a little bit woody, it would retard nutrient flow into the lake. So I think you got a good project, and I think Commissioner Abadili's got a point that I'd have to agree with. Whatever you can do. Thank you.
Is there, do you gentlemen have a feel for what you think the extents of something like that should be? It's a pretty tight area. We've got, call it 16 feet down to where it's kind of beachy. 16 to 20 some feet, I should say. So in that neighborhood, do you think of, again, I'm trying to not impede too much access to it, but if we were to get a 3 or 4 foot wide bed for a portion of that area, by the fire pit? Would that feel like it'd be something that makes sense?
Yeah, and using some of the plants on our list, I think that would be a benefit to nutrient reduction and to wildlife habitat. So that'd be cool for me. I'll hear from other commissioners.
It looks like George Gilmore has some thoughts.
Yeah, I'm going to George next. George?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Yeah, Sean, yeah, I'm looking at your engineering plan, and I'm looking at your terrace seat wall, and I'm looking at your limit of work. And if, in my opinion, if you could put some of those plantings in that area right there, that would certainly soften the effects of that fire pit area in my mind. So that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, George. Bill?
Yeah, I'd just like to support the last three commissioners' comments. And I'd like to add, when I look at this, I was looking at permeable pavers, and what exactly is a permeable paver and bluestone and yada yada.
Yeah.
I went online, and I get it. I get you end up putting a base of gravel.
Right.
And that, therefore, the people that are strong advocates of it talk about it being it has the great capacity to absorb water runoff. It's going to go right into the ground, and so therefore you're not going to have as much runoff. And I thought, okay, that's good. But then I'm thinking about clogging. I'm thinking that over time it goes along with the, we as a commission have talked about, you have a gravel driveway, you get credit because you didn't pave it, but then we've talked about it, how gravel driveways ultimately clog up. And so I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, well, yeah, it's better than if it was just pure hardscape, but it's not like, the total, fix. And so I'm a little hesitant. I like permeable pavers, but I don't know how much, credit you get. That being said, you have a bottom line. In which you have not increased the hardscape in the 0 to 50, or in fact even the 50 to 100, I believe. And so I'm like, okay, that's good. But then you're with that new patio, you are coming into within 20 feet of the lake. And if you don't have any vegetation along there, you're really not being good stewards of that lake. You want to be filtering stuff out. And so bottom line, I'm supportive of others who've called for some additional vegetation down there. Thank you.
Bill, one thing I want to bring up, we wouldn't use a true gravel where you've got the things in it. Actually going to use a crushed stone that is more open and washed. So it won't have the fines that you'll get in some of the old school gravel driveways that have they're a little more like crush and run, that have the compacted fines, so they won't have a tendency to clog up. In that way, we also use a filter fabric when we're laying those down, so we won't get the sedimentation to the same degree. So it will be a little different than that. But I hear you on the plantings. I was just going to try to put your mind at ease on the method of construction is all.
Well, while you're at it, I don't know much about these permeable pavers. My impression is that it's kind of a relatively new technology. Can you shed light on, the longevity? Have people had these things for 20 years and the water's just going right into the ground still after 20 years? Or
yeah, I would say so. I guess you'd say, have we seen anything technically that's been laid 20 years ago as considered to be a permeable surface? Probably isn't a lot of that, Bill. There's probably more in the last, call it 10 to 12 years, I would say. We haven't run into any issues where we've heard of there being issues with it not functioning. But your point, it is relatively new, but conceptually, it still would make sense. And the technology itself is not a new thing per se. Certainly, using crushed stone and pea stone essentially is what it is, a quarter-inch chip stone. We're getting really, really good permeability out of those. And we're using it sometimes to protect the stone, to be honest, so that water's not sitting on it. When bluestone started to get to be a little bit poor quality and was spalling off and cracking, we went to a different method of insulation, to be honest. We did it not because it's permeable, but it's because, well, not because it was mandated, but it's because we felt like it was a better construction technique. We haven't run into any problems with it not functioning after a number of years. I would say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd also, though, Sean, like to have you comment, being this patio permeability, very different, I would think, than a gravel driveway, because the mass, the weight of action on it is so much less that it doesn't have a car rolling over it, compacting it on a daily basis. It's just people walking, much less pressure being put onto that compaction. So much less likely, I would think, to compact.
Oh gosh, absolutely, yeah, correct. Yeah, we wouldn't have any of that same impact that you're going to have. We're actually really pleased with how it's holding up, setting up for us.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Peter, you read my mind.
And might I add, there's also not the amount of material that will be added during winter seasons on the patio in comparison to a pavers type driveway. So you're not going to be seeing sands laid down to prevent slippage on the patio in comparison to a paver driveway. So that would also be less of an issue with clogging. So there is a difference between a paved patio and a paved drive in that respect.
Sean, could you go back to that proposal you started to make relative to what you think you could do in front of that patio?
Yeah, if you're thinking about, Laura, if you can do you want to go to our landscape plan, or would you like to see that kind of, that more graphic of the square footage? Is that easier for you? Or our landscape plan, so we can go with that. And so if we're thinking about an area straight in front of the wall, so going all the way over to, say, where we have the end of the pavers. Oh, thank you. You're drawing for me. Thank you, Laura. But I would say it would be brought toward the heavier line there. If we started the pavers at the call them the stepping stones, and we run the other stepping stones. If you go up to the deck area and go out toward the water, right in there, and if we start to bring a kind of like a 4-foot wide bed running the distance, and it might even be a little bit inbound from there, guys, all the folks that have commented, it might be starting right about where the paver starts and running down about the length of the wall that runs all the way along parallel to the wall, and then returns back to the left. The other once you go left a little bit, and then come back up to the stepping stones, somewhere around there. Graphic. That's a diagram anyway. That's not like perfect on the materials, but what that does do, because I believe that is beachy, kind of sandy area to the right. So what that would do is still give you some square footage in front of the area that's kind of mostly affected, which is the wall and the terrace, the permeable terrace area.
Well, if I can, speaking for myself, I would be okay with this, subject to receiving a revised plan that Darcy could review and approve, pretty much along those lines. I'd be okay with that.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
That makes sense.
Any other comment from the commissioner? Seeing none, Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
Darcy, I think we need that annual report. Do you agree?
Yeah, and I was just thinking, I'm not sure exactly what we finally agreed about being planted there, but if there's some way we could demarcate the 4 corners of that rectangle so we know what's supposed to be there down the road.
He can show that on the revised plan.
With a planting plan, Darcy, with a planting plan that you could review.
Right.
Yeah.
So so demarcation of the mitigation area, and since it's kind of parallel, we could deal with four posts. We have an idea of what you need. I mean, we can send you an idea of what you can use for demarcation.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you, Doug.
Did I go to the public comment yet? Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
None? Could I have a motion to approve this project subject to receipt of a revised plan showing the mitigation area that we just discussed about, plus the demarcations, and then annual report for 3 years?
And a planting plan submitted to Darcy for review.
Yes. The planting plan, the revised planting plan is supposed to be submitted to Darcy for review, showing the demarcation of the mitigation planting area.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Tangney.
Aye.
Sempu.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck.
Appreciate it.
Right. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Tammy.
We have two continuances. The first one is Stephen and Christine Foyer to remove invasive plant species, construct sand path and fire pit at 0 Bridge Street, Austinville, as shown in the Assessors Map 093 Parcel 036-005. This is a continuance from November the 7th, and we're still waiting for the DEP number. Is that correct, Kim or Darcy?
Yes, that one we're still waiting for.
Okay, so the applicant has requested for a continuance to November the 28th, waiting for the issuance of the DEP number. Could I have a motion to continuance this to November the 28th?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sempu.
Aye.
Tangney.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. The second continuance is Brian Conley proposed vegetation management to remove a dense cover of invasive, non-native, and aggressive plant species at 169 Southern Point Road, Barnstable, as shown on Assessors Map 301, Parcel 003. This is a continuance from November the 7th without testimony. Ian from Wilkinson is with us. Ian?
Good evening. Thank you. Yes, I'll share my screen. So if you just allow me a moment.
Yep.
All right. If you just could confirm that that's visible.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay. Good evening. For the record, Ian Peach representing the project for Wilkinson Ecological Design this evening. The goal of this project is the conservation of the existing native plant communities. And as you'll see, we're really leaning into this to greatly increase the biodiversity and pollinator benefit of this previously planted mitigation area. We also believe this action will further enhance and improve the vegetated buffer on site, and that being, improve the function for the buffer between the upland area and the resources. The project area is currently almost completely a monoculture of seaside goldenrod and invaded by state-listed invasive species, multiflora rose, shrub honeysuckle, Asiatic bittersweet, and also, unfortunately, mugwort. So many of these species are really at an opportune time in their site proliferation to manage before they further displace the existing native plant species we do have on site to work with. Here, what we're looking to do after invasive plant management, we will establish that native grass layer that I think is critical for this site. In the previous mitigation, I think they just went all forbs, no real grasses. And because of that, maybe with some other reasons as well in terms of management, they ended up with this monoculture and incursion of invasive plants. So we're going to establish that native grass layer after invasive plant management, and then we're going to plant approximately 200 native plants and 12 different native species specifically selected to increase the pollinator benefits. Our proposal primarily considers the long-term health of the resource area by proposing this increase in biological diversity that will benefit the pollinators by providing food sources and host plants that do not currently exist within the project area. We took a hard look at this, and we accomplished this by finding specific native plants a wide variety that are matched to the site conditions to really extend that season offering of bloom time and also therefore nectar and pollen resources for the greatest span of the season. We also considered actually heights of these native flowering plants and color, less for aesthetic, but actually for a diversifying who we're attracting in terms of pollinators to the site. And I should mention one of our inspirations actually is we noted when assessing this project and how we could uplift the existing mitigation area that the town of Barnstable has joined the National Wildlife Federation Mayor's Monarch Pledge, which promotes healthy land management for monarch butterflies and specifically encourages pollinator-friendly landscape planning. So our project kind of took that at heart and as an inspiration, and we're really proposing a program that will protect the existing milkweed species on site and offer specific forage and host plants for those migrating monarch butterflies. And really in doing this, we hope that this planting design, this thinking towards pollinators could be a model for future pollinator-focused mitigation design where appropriate in Barnstable. The other thing I did want to show you that exists in our land management plan, I believe on page 5, is just a diagram that I think speaks to what we're trying to do here in the uplift for the pollinators. This is just looking at the calendar where you could have a potential, the species here for bloom time. Right now, we're basically looking at the goldenrod, and we have a little bit of, we have the high tide bush, the bacchus. So we're taking this same area, not proposing to functionally eradicate all the goldenrod, because we all know that goldenrod is a key late season pollinator. Speaking of the monarchs, on their way, that's going to give them a little bit of energy, but kind of bring in this injection of species specifically matched to really expand from 3 months to 6 months of bloom time and therefore nectar and pollen resources for pollinators. So, we knew that there was an opportunity to uplift this mitigation area from current conditions, make sure we're catching the invasive plants where they're at before they disturb and displace native plants further, and then really think specifically how in this square footage we could bring in the most pollinator benefits. So that's generally how I wanted to focus the project this evening and how we thought about it. As you know, this is a property where there's been great work with the Phragmites management. There's been a COC that established this mitigation area, and we just see an existing condition that really has an opportunity for this kind of specific pollinator-focused uplift and invasive plant management. So with that, I'm happy to speak to any more details or things that would help the commission understand why and where we're headed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian.
Can we stand up and apply?
George.
Yeah, I was just going to say, really great, well thought out, well explained, and wonderful project in my mind. So thank you.
Yeah, Ian, can I come work for you guys?
It's pretty fun, huh? Yeah, asking those questions and trying to solve them is a worthy task.
Spectacular looking project.
Thank you.
Any other comment from the commissioner? Seeing none here. Darcy, I'm thinking of two things. One is the annual report, and then second is the Wilkinson is the SERP consultant. So if there is any change in the SERP consultants, there need to be a written notification to you. Am I correct?
Yes, and then we also asked, so there was the prior mitigation that was approved under a prior application, and we've confirmed through the engineer actually going out that there is additional amount of mitigation that was done under that project. But we did ask that this one have demarcation, the demarcation actually be placed in where there's the metal curbing along the mitigation area. So.
Yep, we're amenable to that.
So do you need a revised plan on that?
Yeah, it would be good to have a revised plan showing the demarcation added.
Okay. 10:18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
None. Could I have a motion to approve this project subject to, one is the annual report for 3 years, and second is the receipt of a revised plan showing the demarcations as discussed. And third, Wilkinson is the search consultant on this project. If there is a change in terms of the search consultant, a written notification to the staff should be submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
Tangney,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye, Hearn.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you for your encouragement and support. Have a nice evening.
Great job.
Yeah,
Great job.
good job. We have 3 easy certificate of compliance. The first one is Christopher P. Kenneth, SE3-5838. The second is Edward and Nancy Ascondorian, Trust and Town of Barnstable, SE3-5646. And Stephen A. Hearns Trust, A. Alta Vista 2020 Realty Trust, SE3-5897. Could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye, Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
Tangney.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. We have 2 sets of minutes, October the 10th and October the 31st.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Sampu,
Aye.
Tangney,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye, Foster,
Aye.
Abadili.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Our next hearing is at 6:30 on November the 28th. We have quite a long list on that agenda. So we'll see you on that one. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Tangney,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye, that's unanimous. Adjourned at 7:42.